Hey, what's happening, everybody? It is the day after Thanksgiving. They call what? Black Friday. So, we're gonna drop my phone here for a minute. There we go. Oh no, this went to video mode only. Oh, something fucked up. There we go. Dirty Bird, what's up? Let's see, we got 3 YouTubers, 1 Facebooker in here. It's a busy, busy day. What I wanted to do here is simply just discuss a little bit about the SDR radio stuff. Mine's not set up to transmit yet. I'm working on doing a split off of this radio here, and Knockout set me up with a relay situation or a box, and this is my receiver for now. And what's going on is, if you have a transceiver, an SDR system, like the Hermes Light 2, that's very popular, little radio transceiver. Some guys use them as a whole. Some guys don't use the transmit section. They use the receive section on it. There's many ways you can use that. But the bigger problem here was always the input drive power. The guys couldn't get the power out of the radios to use them like a regular Cobra, like a Cobra 29 or such. So, with that said, in the past, I built a custom 120 volt unit plugged into the wall. It performed off of 28 volts, and it got up there a little bit in price. I mean, it's a plug in the wall unit, like $700 or so, $750. I can't really remember the price, and that was back when, a few years back, or about a year or so ago. I did some of the Hermes Light stuff. So I just thought I would try something the other day, since I've been down this rabbit hole with these 1446s. What's going on, Rudy? Aloha. The 1446s have 2 chips in them, and they excite very easily. So it gave me the thought, before I sent this box out, to take and try it as if I were driving this with a Hermes Light system. Now, the way I mocked that up is I made myself my own 10 dB attenuator that comes in. So my radio comes in here. It has a 10 dB pad before it hits the input of the amplifier. Now, some amplifiers may kick in. You may have a problem with the relay latching because there's so little power coming in. You may have to change the sniffer cap inside your amplifier to get this to work. So if you can say audio and it clicks in and engages and you see power, then you have to work on your keying circuit to take and make it more sensitive to lesser amount of power coming in. And that's what's coming in here. Where they're normally set up, they're set up for anywhere from I think a half a watt up to like right around 3-4 watts is where we'd normally run at maximum drive level out of one of those radios, so meaning dead key. But going back to the lower dead key of the Hermes Light, there's really, you're dealing with milliwatts, 500 milliwatts to be exact, to be a half of a watt, but they'll swing up to maybe 3/4 of a watt on a bird, and the peak is maybe 3 or 4 watts. So this isn't really quote unquote a very true test, but this is a Class C amplifier, and I know for a fact if I were to bias this thing, it would light up a lot easier. Now the nice thing is there is a potentiometer on here, so we can show some control, but biasing is something that will actually really help these to push start. Now I'm not taking and saying, advertising, oh, I'm building amplifiers with bias in them. No, this is kind of a special situation where I need that extra input drive or voltage to take and drive the input circuit of this 2 transistor 1446. So if I were to put bias on this thing, it would probably perform a lot better. But we're going to show it in Class C mode today. I have my radio back quite a bit down here, and we're going to be looking at some smaller slugs, a 10 watt slug and a 5 watt slug, and you're seeing they're going forward. So that's showing you my attenuation's happening before it even hits the slugs. So you're going to see the true power of what my radio is actually doing to get into this unit, and then we'll see what the output power of this unit is doing by measuring on a 25 watt slug and a 100 watt slug in the peak mode. So what we're just going to do is just simply generate a simple test, and you guys can kind of play with it if you like. There's a lot of amplifiers out there that's already biased, and a lot of them are the Texas Stars, but to find two 1446s in them are pretty rare, unless somebody had took in revised the circuit and made it a lesser circuit, let's say, because these transistors are good. They're super great transistors. Originally, these transistors were designed and cut for 27 megacycles. That's why they perform so good, because they were already in our general vicinity of the frequency that we transmit on, not from 2 to 30, and we have to narrow band the transistor to match our frequency, which is great. Wide band is good, don't get me wrong. Narrow band, this is the only transistor they ever made for 27 megacycles in this type of package, the SD1446. So let's take a look at what we got going on. We're going to be running this unit at 14.8 volts or 9 volts or so. And we already went over the slug, so let's just take a look over here. Here's my 10 watt slug. Now this is attenuated now. This is before it actually hits the amplifier. I just want to take and show you guys just a quick demonstration. Audio, 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 audio. So we're hanging out right there on, and that's a 10 watt slug. So that's saying that I'm hanging out right around 1 watt or so, about 1 watt. This one here is a 5 watt slug, audio 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're hanging out right around 3/4 of a watt. Now, amplifier is on. Let's see what kind of amperage we're drawing. Now, it's not going to be very much. Now, we've seen this thing draw like 16, 17 amps in just a regular use of a radio. Audio, 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 audio. So I'm only drawing like 4 amps, so you know it's not going to be too exciting. Audio, 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 audio. 4 or 5 amps at 14.9. So let's take a look at the 25 watt slug, and then we'll look at the 100 watt slug in peak mode. And here is your 25 watt slug. Each line is a half a watt. Audio, 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 audio. So we're just touching 10 bird. So now this whole system is actually running just how my radio would normally run, but the peak is much greater. That's a 100 watt slug. Each line is on the bottom, and it's 2. Audio, audio, 1, 2, 3, 4. Audio, 1, 2, 3, 4. Audio, 1, 2, 1, 2. I don't know why it's bouncing like that. Audio, 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 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I had to give it just a smidge more mic gain. So we're a little over 75 watts on the peak. Now, that's not excessive. I mean, it's 10 watts, 75. You have 2 transistors. They're really producing a lot of headroom. You probably go out there and talk in the sync forever. But all it is a pre-exciter or a pre-driver. So this whole system would be that radio in layman's terms. I mean, this radio would do the same as what this unit's doing, except it's not doing 75 watts peak. So if we were to look at, how could I do this? All right, give me 1 second here. Let me simply just remove the 10 dB attenuation, and we'll take a look at just a radio passing through here. I'm not really wanting to change all my slugs, just see the output of the amplifier at full capacity with a 10 bird radio. So we're just going to simulate this really quick, and we'll use the same slugs over here and then the same slugs here. So now we're going to see what this thing actually has. This 5 watt's going to get beat up, so I'm going to take and turn that away. 10 watt might get beat up a bit. Let's take a look. Audio, audio. Try that again. Alright, let's set that at 1 watt carrier. So, hello, 1, 2, audio, 1, 2. So I'm showing about 8. And let's see on the 25 watt slug up here. Let's see what it's going to show me here. Audio, 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 7.5 for 8. Now here's your peak. All right, this is just a peak. Audio, audio, audio. I'm just passing through. So you can see audio, audio, the same 100 watt slug, audio, 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 audio. So about 38 watts. So that's quite a bit difference, about half of what this was doing as far as peak goes. So the plus side is you pick up quite a bit more peak. And could you use this for a driver for something? Yeah, you could. You sure could. You could not drive something with a 1 transistor in it, but a straight unit, and it would be able to take something of that nature. But a lot of guys like to run those 4CX, I believe, or 3CX 800s. Those type of tubes. I know if you guys are running a Hermes program and they got an amplifier and they were running the amplifier, I built them into the 800s, and they were using it as if it were the driver. So it worked out for all the guys that got those in the past. It's just, I just wanted to revisit this because I went back in my Facebook and I looked, And all of those videos I did with the Hermes light, and I never backed them up, I never saved them to another platform or to my camera roll or whichever, and I lost all those videos that I've done about the Hermes light stuff. So eventually I will build another one of those units. I actually still have the parts and power supplies and etc. to take in and build one. It's not a huge market on these things. A lot of guys hadn't got on board how they're going to figure out how they're going to make more power, and now I believe they're making some of these kits now where the devices actually put out a little bit more power and they act as a different radio. Now, for the same example, if you had a Sun radio, Sun Technologies, they were about a 4 dB attenuation. Number one, Sun had one of those Sun Technology radios, the SDR system, and his put out like almost like a Cobra radio would, almost the same numbers as mine. The peak was a little bit lower, I think, but here's about a 4 dB attenuator from this particular radio that I'm running. I had not did this test, so I'm going to kind of find out what happens with this test, but we still run the same slugs and such, and those at the far end might have to be larger. Well, we'll find out. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and give it a bump and see what happens here. Let's take a look at the amperage while we're right here. Audio, let's turn it on. Let's take a look at the amperage. Audio. So 9 amps. So we increased like 3-4 amps, and let's see if we increased anything with a 4 dB attenuator. See what the radio is doing now on a 10-watt slug. Audio. So the radio's still showing me. Boy, that's a 10-watt slug. That's right around 3 watts or so. Audio. A little over 3. All right, here's a 5-watt slug. Audio. Yep, there we go. A little over 3. All right, so what happens to our RMS now? That's 25-watt slug. We're doing right around 10 before. Audio. Well, just beating the snot out of that one. So let's get a different slug for there. I really don't have a smaller one for there. So, well, I guess I'll just throw a 250 in the hole real quick and see what happens with that. All right. Audio 250, audio, right about 50 watts. What's it doing at a 100-watt peaker? Tweaker, audio, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I should probably reverse these, huh? That makes sense. I didn't look at the scaling on the other scale, on the other peak kit when I ran this. All right, so let's look at the peak now. Yes, sir, 1, 2, tweaker, and a peaker, and a tweaker, 175 watts peak. And this is a 4 dB attenuator. Audio. That is a 100-watt slug now. Audio, 1, 2. So 125. So 1 or 125 watts or so RMS, and it just really kind of got up there pretty good on the peak. Audio, 1, 2, peaker, tweaker, and that is a 250-watt slug. Audio. So hanging out right around 175 watts on the peak. Now that again is two 1446s with a 4 dB attenuator on it. With that said, that's what I'm trying to do is slow my radio down to try to replicate what a Sun Technology radio would do, and this one would replicate what a Hermes light would do. Very close to it. I believe all the testing I did in the past and the units that I built matched up quite nicely with their systems and the system that they had put together. This is not, I pull it out of the box, plug it in, and everything's going to work fine and dandy. I heard there's some guys have to run antenna tuners between their radio and the amplifier because the communications of the input reflection comes back, and those radios are set up super sensitive, I guess, and they'll take and shut off the antenna warning system inside the Hermes light, and then they'll just run an antenna tuner and it just kind of self-corrects itself. But that's additional. You're gonna have to buy a little antenna tuner. I think the digital automatic ones for any frequency is like under 50-60 bucks, but it's still another piece. So if you're into the computer thing and you're into the high-tech radio stuff, this is just an avenue. Again, this amplifier was done in Class C. I just wanted to take and revisit this a little bit for the guys to think about if they have an amplifier laying around like a small one like this, give it a try. It might work out for you. If you can't get it to work out, then I'll come in. You want a custom built unit, then just contact me. But other than that, I'm not offering these amplifiers as in Class A, B, C mode, whatever, with biasing and all that for my standard stuff. This is the only time I've ever put any biasing in the units that I've built, was for the SDR stuff. And I needed that to get that extra little push to get these things to go and drive really good, and then you'd be able to control it. Now with that said, there's a little bit of control right here. And so let's say you had that unit and it was running that hot at a 175 watts peak. Let's take in audio. Let's back it all down a bit, and let's take a visit this 100 watt slug again. Audio. So simply by turning that potentiometer, I just crank that thing down to like 10 watts, 11 bird. Audio. So the potentiometer right now is about halfway. Here's wide open again. Audio. So the potentiometer definitely has movement on this. I'll back it down a little bit. Audio. That's 250 watt slug. There's right around 100. No, that's a 100 watt slug. So that was right around 40 watts right there. Roll it back a little bit more. Audio. So it's nice to have a potentiometer. If I back it all the way down, she ain't gonna do anything, man. She's dead in the water. Audio. So it just, the peak is kind of trying audio one too, but there's just not enough signal getting to the transistors to actually turn them on. Audio. So any way you want to cut it, again, this was just a quick little test. I just wanted to revisit this part of things that I've done in the past, kind of thing. And it allows people to take and expand their minds a little bit, and you don't always have to go out and buy the next piece to get your system running. You can try different things, and quite honestly, they may work for you, they may not. But if they don't, I've already been down this rabbit hole for quite a while, and it's a neat system. I'm slowly taking and putting a system together over here for the SDR, and I'll eventually probably build myself one of these little amps. So if I do one of these two 1446 units or a full-fledged 28 volt unit and build something like that, I don't know. But what I do know is this stuff's really fun to play with, and you're not really going to hurt anything because you're not putting any signal into it. So you have to keep that in mind. I think the only thing that you guys would have to worry about with the Hermes light stuff would be the power backing into the radio, and that's why a lot of guys they use an antenna tuner to take and correct that problem, and it keeps their radios from getting burned up. I mean, you burn up a Hermes light 2 with like $300 an hour or something like that just for a radio. You're not going to take and try to repair it because you don't really know what's burnt up. It's about as big as a cigarette pack. In fact, a radio is no bigger than half of this. So it's very small. But with that said, Molly's stretched out. She had her daily dose of her dog food. And you gonna say hi, Molly? Nothing? Hanging out in your bed? You all stretched out, ain't you? Huh? You all stretched out, honey? You gonna burn the junk up? No? Okay. All right. You be a good girl, honey. Yes. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. It's just like I said. It was just a quick little test, and I wanted to take and touch base on the Hermes light and the SDR systems. So there's amplifiers that there are very few and in between made for just that. There's multi-band stuff, but I'm the only one I think is just kind of doing 11 meter stuff, but with the Hermes light and those types of systems. Now, no, there's no filters or things of that nature in there. So I had guys say, where's the filter and all the other crap? And I'm like, listen, man, these guys are using this stuff for AM. I didn't even get into it with the guy. I just kind of ignored it. But either way, like I said, this is just a simple test in a Class C amplifier, no biasing in it, and just to show how very, very low power will still get these things up and moving a bit. Now, I did try like the 12290 driving 4 2290s, and it worked, but it is huckabucking, and you couldn't control it, you couldn't get it to engage, and I would have had to modify the keying circuit in it for it would accept a lower input drive level as far as actuating the relay, because the relay is even much bigger in that unit than it is in this one as well. So coil's a coil, but you still have to bring it down and hold it. So all right, guys, well, there you go. Just like I said, just a quick little test. It's been on my desk, and I was going to do the video the other day, and I decided not to, and today I was like, I gotta move this, should I do a video or not? So I decided to do a video. Happy Black Friday. Y'all don't spend too much money on Christmas stuff, because most of the people you buying stuff for, they didn't deserve it anyway. Unless they're kids, and kids are normally bad and good, but they're mostly good than they are bad. All right, guys, let me get out of here. Molly, you gonna say goodbye? See you later. You done? You got a full belly. Enjoying old Zippy couch, huh? There's old Zip's old bed, right? And his blanket. Yeah, you hug on that thing every day. All right, guys. Well, I'm out of here. Take care. God bless. Season greetings to you, and enjoy you guys' long weekend. I'm out of here. Peace out.
I got 10,000 W and no DX.
All right, guys, I'm out of here. Y'all take care. Thanks for watching. Come on, babe.